Więc godveninke verione, id słuchają to beherevis alof jou todaj, jou knov, questions. Life has a very interesting way of teaching us lessons, questions. It dost always give us vhad vevant, but it surely gives us vhad veneet to grof. The problem is when struggles come, questions. We don't see them as blessings, we see them as burdens. We ask whom but friends, the right question is, questions. Vhad kan I learn so today, let's talk about how to turn your struggles into your strengths. But also in reality, questions. Struggles are not to break us, they are to make us, questions. Diamonds are born under pressure, yo. If we never look a diamond, we admire its sparkle, its beauty valued. Questions. People spend huge amounts of money to buy diamonds, but we often forget that before it became this precious stone. Questions. It was nothing but a piece of blasku na tracive carbon. Imagine if that carbon had feelings, what would it say? Povchia mi being pressed. Vchia mi undersucheat. Questions. Vchia mi crushedlike tis, but only because of that unimaginable pressure and unbearable heat. Questions. The carbon transformed into something priceless. In life we are allike that carbon. On the surface ordinary. Questions. We go above daily routines, doing work, handling responsibilities, fetching lenges. Questions. But when struggle reliever when pressuram all sides, when life fails to hot to handle something, visinus starts hanging. Questions. Just like a carbon, it is in those moments of struggle that our true strengths and value are formed. Without pressure, questions, carbon against carbon, without struggle, we remain the same. Think about it practically. Questions. A student preparing for exams feels immense pressure. Everyone else might be sleeping peacefully at night, but this student is awake. Questions. He is heavy brain tired of a soup in hand flipping through textbooks. That pressure is not enjoyable. Questions. But if the student embraces it works hard and doesn't give up, that very pressure leads to the strength of knowledge, the discipline of effort, and eventually the sparkle of success. The exam is just a test. Questions. But the pressure of preparation builds inner qualities that last a lifetime. Without the exam. Questions. The student might have never pushed himself or herself so much. Take another example. A young person starting a career. At first, the workload is suffocating. New deadlines, new expectations, late nights, early mornings, pressure from managers, requests from society. Sometimes it feels so much, but is this happening to me? How can things be easier? But as time passes, questions. Those very pressures sharpen skills, deepen resilience, and bring maturity. Just like soil turns into diamond under pressure. Questions. A person grows into professional under struggle. Without pressure, we never expand our capacity. Even in relationships. Questions. Pressure comes, sometimes between husband and wife, between parents and children, between friends. Arguments, misunderstandings, questions, moments of silence, moments of anger, these things hurt. But when handled with patience, humility, and love, questions. The pressure teaches us tolerance, it teaches us empathy, it teaches us how to love not just when it's easy, questions, but especially when it's hard. That's what transforms ordinary bonds into unbreakable diamonds of deep relationships. Questions. Think about our own bodies. If you go to a gym, you don't just lift the others. You lift weights that give pressure to your muscles. Questions. The more you challenge the muscles, the stronger they become. If you only lift like things, there is no growth. Questions. Struggle is the weight of life. Even we carried with determination, we grow stronger. Every time we avoid it, we remain weak. Questions. Many people pray for an easy life. But the truth is, an easy life produces weak people. A life full of challenges, pressure, questions. And struggle produces strong diamonds, questions. The worth of a person is often seen in much they have gone through and how gracefully they handled it. Questions. You may admire someone's strength today, but remember that strength once a struggle they didn't run away from. Questions. Let me share a simple observation from daily life. Imagine you are boiling milk on a stove. When the heat increases, the milk rises. You have to watch a refuglio service it spills over. In life heat makes us rise to. When pressure increases. Questions. Where is our comfort zone? We may feel uncomfortable, but that very rise is what prevents us from being stagnant. Without hair, questions, milk just sits there. Without pressure, we just sit there too. So whenever pressure comes into your life, don't see it as punishment. Questions, see it as polishing. Remember when you polish a piece of stone, it shines more. But the polishing process is not soft, it's friction. Questions. It is rubbing is uncomfortable. Similarly, life polishes us stroke halenges. A very rub is making us shine. Friends, questions. Diamonds don't complain about the pressure. They simply endure it until they shine. Can we do the same? Instead of asking questions. Povchia mi under pressure, ask. Of what is this pressure turning me into? Maybe it's making you more disciplined. Questions. Maybe it's making you more humble. Maybe it's giving you patience. Maybe it's preparing you something greater. Questions, pressure without purpose. Next time you feel life pressing your heart, remember the diamond. Questions. Maybe you feel like it's arbon to ordinary, unnoticed under stress, but on a day. Questions. You will shine so bright that people will admire your sparkle and wonder. Questions. Both of dit tebe some like it is. Only you will knov, I the pressure that gave you your strengths. Questions. So don't run away from your struggles. Embrace them, use them, let them refine you. Bezause diamonds are born under pressure, and so is your strengths. Your pain has a purpose when we go through pain. Our first reaction is to ask, is this happening to me? That's natural. Questions. No one wakes up in the morning saying, Poch, I wish it's all struggle today. We don't like pain, we don't invite it. Questions. And we don't enjoy it. But whether we like it or knowing can come into a very honest life. The truth is pain is not without meaning. Questions. There is always a purpose behind it. Life doest was the pain. Think about this. When a moser gives birth to a hilt. Questions. Czego stroke tremendous pain. The contractions, the discomfort, the physical struggle, it's beyond imagination. But after the pain, questions, what comes? A new life. The joy of holding Heba must her forget the suffering she went through. She never logs but can size, questioned that pain. I bezause in her head, she knows the pain had a purpose. Without it, she should not hold that precious little honor. Nova pletisto or own lives. Questions. A very painful situation we go through is like a labor pain it's producing something new within us. It's all be patience. Questions. It's all be strength, it's all be wisdom. Sometime we only realize the purpose years later. But I will octare full. A very pain le aves us vis a gift. Take a daily example. Imagine you are learning to read a bicycle as a hilt. You fall, question bruise your knee. You cry. At that moment, the pain felt so zealous. Povchud dit, I have to fall, but vis fall, questions. You learn balance. You learn how to control the cycle. Eventually, you read with confidence, questions. And the you of freedom makes you forget all the bruises. Without the falls, soul never learn balance. Without the pain, questions, you should when you read. It's the same when you go to the gym. The first time you lift weights, your muscles ache the next day, questions. You can barely walk after like that, the pain is real. but ask a fitness trainer and they will tell you questions. That pain is not damaging you, it's growing you. It's a sign that your muscles are incredibly stronger than before. Questions. Without that pain, there is no growth. Similarly, in life, the struggles that hurt us are often the struggles that make us stronger. Now let's talk about emotional pain. Maybe you trusted someone deeply and they betrayed you. Questions. Maybe you gave your best in a relationship but it didn't work out. That pain suits deeper than any physical wound. At first, is questions unbearable, but if you allow it, that pain teaches you something powerful. It teaches you how to value truth. Questions. It teaches you how to host a next time. Questions. It teaches you that your happiness cannot depend solely on someone else. It must also come from within. Questions. Pain relationships often purifies our love and makes us more compassionate, more understanding and more mature. Another example. Questions. Many successful people today went through years of rejection and failure before they achieved greatness. Take it. Rowling. Questions. The author of Harry Potter. She was rejected by multiple publishers. She was a single mother struggling to survive. Questions. And facing constant financial pain. At that time, she must have wondered of his life so hard, but today to know the answer. Questions. Her pain had purpose. It built resilience, it shaped her creativity. Questions. And it led her to become one of the most successful writers in history. Without the struggle. Questions. Her story would have inspired millions. Sometimes, pain protects us from something worse. Imagine you touch a hot stove. Questions. You faint instantly and you remove your hand. That pain just saved you from a severe burn. In the same way, questions. When life allows us to feel the pain of a wrong decision, it might be protecting us from a bigger disaster. Questions. Pain is like an alarm system. It tells us something needs to hang, something is not right. Listen to the pain. Questions. And you'll discover its purpose. Even in small daily experiences, pain serves us. When you get to Osaka, it's painful. Questions. But it's also to visit the dentist. Without the pain, you might ignore the vital until it becomes dangerous. Questions. The same principle applies emotionally and spiritually. Pain pushes us to pay attention to areas of life we have neglected. Questions. Maybe it's telling us to take care of our health, to improve our relationships, or to connect more deeply with our inner self. Questions. Pain is a teacher. We might not like the subjects, but the lessons are priceless. Questions. Pain teaches us resilience, how to stand up after we fall. Pain teaches us gratitude, how to value what we once took for granted. Questions. Pain teaches us humility, how to accept that we don't control everything. Questions. Pain teaches us empathy, how to feel forces who are also hurting. And perhaps most importantly, questions. Pain teaches us hope that no matter how dark the night is, the morning will surely come. Questions. So the next time you are going through a difficult moment, don't only ask, but instead, try asking questions. Of what is this pain trying to teach me? What purpose is hidden behind this? When we hang the question, the pain does disappear immediately, but our perspective does. And perspective is the key to transformation. Always remember, Jones, a set must break before a tree can grow. A caterpillar must struggle inside a cocoon before it becomes a butterfly. And with those questions, must some time go through pain before we discover our true strengths, our true purpose, and our true beauty. Your pain has a purpose. Through questions, trust that on a day, when you look back, you will say, I did enjoy that struggle, but it gave me something priceless. It made me who I am today. Post questions. Failure is not the opposite of success, it's a part of success. Whenever we hear the word of failure, questions, it instantly makes us feel uncomfortable. Nobody likes to fail. We grow up in a world where success is celebrated. Questions are displayed, achievements are applauded, but failures are hidden, mocked, or criticized. Yet, questions. If we look closely at the story of a very successful professor in business and science, questions, or even in daily life will notice a common trait, their journey was filled with failures. Failure is not the enemy of success. Questions. Failure is the foundation of success. Without it, success doesn't have roads. Think about how a hill learns to walk. Questions. The hill doesn't stand up and immediately start running a marathon. First the hill crawls, then tries to stand, wobbling, falling, bumping, crying. They fall not once, not twice, but dozens of times. Yet the hill does think, boh no, I fell 5 times today. Walking is not for me. Let me just give up crawl forever. And no. Every fall is a teacher. Question bruise is a lesson in balance. Every failure is practice. And eventual questions. That same hill runs around the house with unstoppable energy. If children treated failure as the opposite of success, questions, none of us would ever well today. In school, many of us failed exams. We talked failing a test meant we were not smart enough. Questions. But is that true? Failing a test doesn't mean you are incapable, just means you haven't mastered the subject yet. Questions is feedback. It tells us how we need to improve. Questions. Imagine if Thomas Edison stopped after his first attempt at creating the light bulb. He once said, I have not failed 10,000 times. I have simply found 10,000 ways that don't work. That means it is had made him successful. Questions. If he had looked at those as failures in the negative sense, we might still be sitting in darkness. Questions. Let's take a simple daily example. Imagine you are learning to talk. The first time you try making a patty, it looks more like a map of Africa than a round circle. The taste might be half chocolate or too salty. At that moment, Jones soul get discouraged, but what happens you keep practicing. Slowly your patty improves. Eventual questions. You become skilled enough to feed your family with pride. Questions. A failed happens not the opposite of success, it was part of the success. Without those imperfect attempts, questions, there would be no perfection later. The same applies to sports. Questions. A cricketer does story century first time he picks up the bat. He gets out, he apple makes mistakes, faces failures, questions. But those very failures trays, sharpen fine his reflexes, and strengthen his resolve. Questions. A footballer misses countless goals in practice before scoring the winning on in a big match. When we watch them succeed on the field, we applaud. Questions. But had they don't see hundreds of missed attempts that were hidden behind that on a glorious moment. Questions. Failure also builds resilience. Imagine a seed planted in the soil. At first, the seed must crack and break open. To the seed, questions. This breaking is an like a failure, but only by breaking does the seed release the life hidden inside. Questions. That breaking is not destruction, it is transformation. In the same way, when we break in life, when we experience failure, questions. It might feel like the end, but often is the beginning of something greater. Consider people who start businesses. Questions. Many entrepreneurs will tell you that their first business failed. Some went bankrupt. Some faced rejection. Questions. Some made wrong decisions. But those failures taught them lessons no MBA program sultich. Questions. Those lessons became the pillars for their next venture, fich eventually succeeded. Questions. If they had treated failure as the opposite of success, they would have quit. but bețause sa failure as part of the process. Questions. They kept going. And todai ve celebrate tei success stories. Even in relationships, failure plays a role. Questions. Sometimes friendships break, sometimes trust is lost, sometimes marriages don't work out. It's painful, yes. But from that failure, questions. People learn through a communication means fat patien regvires, fat real love demands. Those lessons are not wasted. Tions, they make us wiser in our future relationships. Questions. The failure of a connection often prepares us to nurture a no service more maturity and sare. The truth is failure humbles us. Questions. Success often inflates the ego, but failure brings us down to earth. And when we are grounded, we grow. Imagine climbing a mountain. Questions. Every time you sleep or fall, you learn how to place your foot better, how to grip more tightly, how to keep your balance. Questions. Those small failures along the climb have eventually all of you to reach the top. So the next time you fail, questions, don't label yourself a lot say, but this is the end. Instead, this is say the beginning of my next lesson. Questions. If failure is no full stop, it's just a comma. The sentence or life continues. Success is not a straight road, it's a zigzag. Questions. Filled with bumps and setbacks. And every setback is setting you up for a stronger comebacks. Friends, when you fail, remember. Questions. It's not the opposite of success. It's a stepping stone, a bridge, a hidden guide that leads you closer to success. Questions. Failure is like a mirror, it shows you where you need to hang, and when you accept it as part of your journey. Questions. You will no longer fear it. You will embrace it, learn from it, and grow because of it. So don't be afraid to fail. Questions. Be afraid never drink. Be afraid of staying the same. Because failure doest make you weak, it makes you wiser. Questions. And very wise person, you admire todai once stot exactly where you stand. At the crossroads of failure, questions, deciding whether to quit or to continue. Te chose to continue. And so can you. Questions. Struggles make you humble of the most beautiful qualities a human being can develop is humility. Questions. Humility is not weakness, it is strength under control. It is not thinking less of yourself, but to thinking of yourself less. Post questions and strangely, humility comes when everything in life is easy and comfortable. It comes when life challenges us. Questions. When struggles bring us down to our knees, and when we are reminded that we are not the masters of everything. Questions. Struggles make us humble. Think about it. When life is going smoothly, when money is flowing, when health is strong. Questions. When relationships are perfect, it is very easy to become proud. We start thinking, poiți al bețause of me. Im so capable. Questions. I don't need to know. Success sometimes inflates the ego, antego blinzus. But then a struggle comes. Maybe a bushines loss. Questions. Maybe illness, maybe a broken relationship. And suddenly we realize how fragile we really are. The struggle humbles us. Questions. It shows us that no matter how much we have, there are things in life beyond our control. Take a daily life example. Questions in a someone who's is very healthy and fit, always running marathons, always boasting about their stamina. Then on a day, questions. Takes out a simple flu, they're lying in bed with fever, unable to even get up. At that moment, questions. All the pride about their fits disappears. The struggle with illness makes them humble. It remains them to value health. Questions. To be grateful for the simple ability to brace a chile or walk without pain. Questions. Health struggles the humility be showing us how dependent we are on things we often take for granted. Another example. Questions. Think of a student who always scores big marks. Maybe they reuse to being top of the class, praised by teachers. Questions. Admired by friends, pride kan krepin, but one dai tei face subiects cannot master e ascili mathematic physics questions, or maybe literature, no matter of heart tei tri, tei struggle. Tat struggle breaks ter arrogance and makes them realize questions, poi still have so much to learn. E tei mai even start respecting classmates tei onze loket down upon. Questions. Struggles in academics humbleus betichnus dat intelligence is not everything for patience, and respect matter to. Questions, relationships als also tichus humilitus strokes to metigles. Questions, ve argue vis love honest and realize la hofor pride hur de bond. A struggle in a relationship forces usto lover our ego. To gestion sorry to admi mistakes. It is never a asset to apologize, but struggles tich ustat love is more important than ego. Questions. Fen we humble ourselves relationships heal. Without struggles we might evaluate the power of forgiveness. Even in our careers, questions, struggles bring humility. A person who is successful in business is mai suddenly face a loss. Mai better company does perform well or ideal files. At that moment their arrogance is shaken. They realize that loots teamwork. Questions. And even dune grazie play roles in success. No one success pure libiter of an effort. That realization softens their head. Questions. Make che stem more compassionates employees, and tige stem to treat everyone vis respect. Questions. Ting of nature as a tiger of humility through struggle. A treat stand still and rigid my snap in a storm. Question. But a treat bends vis devin survives. In the same way life storms come to bentus, not to breacus. Questions. If verenain rigid in our ego ve snap. But if we all of the struggle to make us humble, we survive and grow stronger. Questions. Have you noticed of some of the kindest, most grounded people are those when through immense struggles? Questions. Some of us poor once values money differently. Some of us facet hunger once never vastes fought. Questions. Some of us struggled with loneliness once, treats osses with warmth and kindness. Questions. Struggles carve humility into our hearts ter in wise comfort never can. There is also a spiritual side to this. When life hits us hard, questions, we often turn towards prayer, meditation or reflection. We realize that despite all our efforts, we need higher power. Questions, we need guidance, we need grace. Struggles remind us that we are not the controller of everything. They make us fold our hands. Questions. Both our hands say, we need help. And in that very moment of surrender, humility blossoms. A small story explains this well. Questions. Onze approach king kaska vise sage of what is the most important of a great leader. Ide sage repliet po humility. Questions. Ide king laugegan sait, po buti have convert lands, I have welts, I have power. Questions. Vsholt, Ibe humble, de sage smilet and asked him to carry a pot full of water on his head and walk through the market without spilling a. Questions. Decken great, guards surrounded him with swords, ready to strike if even on a drop fell. Terrified. Questions. The king walked carefully and returned without spilling any water. The sage asked. Questions. Did you notice how many people were hearing for you? I the king side on vasto focuset on balancing the pot. Questions. I the sage replied in life, when you carry the weight of responsibility and the struggles that come with it. Questions. Thinking of pride, praise orego. You used focus on the task. That is humility. Friends. Questions. Struggles are not here to humiliate us, they are here to humble us. And humility is not weakness. In fact, questions is one of the greatest strengths we can have. Humility allows us to learn from others, to connect deeply with people, guns, to grow with our arrogance and to stay grounded even when success comes. So when life brings you down, questions. Vchen struggles knotsk at your door don't sitemas sources, sitemas reminders. They are polishing your character, questions, softening your ego, think your lessons that comfort never told. Struggles may bend you, but they bend you towards humility, questions, and humility is the soil in which greatness grows. Questions. Your struggle is story everyone loves a good story. Vchen we sit around with friends or family, we don't usually say questions. But let me tell you about the time everything went perfectly and smoothly in my life. It had would be boring. Questions. Factures poples attention, fmakes them learn in and listen. Are the stories of challenge, the struggles facet, questions, and how overcome them. Struggle is not so messing to hide it, is so messing to embrace, because your struggle becomes your story, questions, and your story has the power to inspire others. Think about the movies we watch. Imagine if a film started with the hero waking up with questions, having breakfast, going to work, returning home, sleeping peacefully, and repeating the same title every day. Was du gwiostaj in the theater for 3 hours of course no questions. We are drawn to movies where the hero struggles here, they face difficulties, get knocked down, rise again, fix bats, questions, and finally a have a victory. The struggles make the story meaningful. In fact, the greater the struggle, the greater the story. Nov applities to real life. All of us are living stories, situations. De hapters tatuch peoples herz are de hapters vhere ventrog storms budit give up. For example, questions. Someone fogref up in poverty and later became successful has a story that inspires millions. Their struggle with hunger, questions. Their struggle with lots of resources, their determination to keep going is become the most powerful part of their life story. Questions. People admire not just here their achet, but how they went through to reactere. Even in our day-to-day lives, questions. Struggles shape our stories. A student who struggled with a subject, faile once otwice. Questions. But eventually passetis is a story worth telling. A moser who struggled to raise her children despite hardships. Questions. Yet managet to build a loving, hunger struggle becomes her legacy. A person who battled illness, faced days of pain. Question. But kept smiling and inspiring others that story is remembered long after the pain is gone. Have you noticed hope? Questions. When we listen to great leaders or spiritual teachers, they rarely talk about their victories. Questions. They often share their struggles, the loneliness they faced, the doubts they battled, the mistakes they made. Questions. Because people don't connect to perfection, they connect to imperfection. They don't relate to success without struggle, because that feels distant and unrealistic. What touches them deeply is when they hear what he also felt. He also create. He also do piet. Us gvestirose again. Your struggle is not so messing to be ashamed of. It is the most authentic part of your journey. Questions. When someone asks you, but tell me about yourself, if God will inspire them more. Saying, poch, everything was always as for me. Questions. Or saying, poi had halenges, I had failures, but I kept going. The second answer has waked. It's aries depths emotion and who questionite. That is what leaves an impact. Let me share a simple observation. When we see a butterfly flying gracefully, questions, we admire its beauty. But what we don't see is the struggle it went through inside the cocoons. If you try to help a butterfly by shooting the cocoon open, it comes out weak and cannot fly. Questions. Because the struggle of pushing against the cocoon was necessary to strengthen its wings. The struggle became its story. Questions. And the story gave it the ability to fly. Similarly, when you share your struggles, questions, you are showing your wings the strength you developed through pain. In our culture, questions. Many people hesitate to talk about their struggles. They think, what will others say if they know if failed questions? Or if they know if suffered, but in reality, people respect honesty. When you share your struggles openly, others feel comforted. Questions. They realize they are not alone. Your story might be the hope someone else desperately needs. Imagine someone who is depressed, questions, thinking they've never overcome their pain. Then they hear your story of youth, also felt hopeless questions, but found it so rugged to move on. That story told save their life. Even the scriptures are filled with stories of struggle, questions. Great science kings and various all went through trials. Questions. They struggled same time stories to inspire people centuries later. If they had lived as without bad lessons, their stories would not be remembered. Struggle is what makes a story worth telling. Let's also look at the flip side. Imagine you lived completely smooth, comfortable life with no struggles at all. What story would you have behind? Comfort does inspire, struggle does. The beauty of your life is not in how easy it was, questions, but in how bravely you carried the hard parts. Every scar you have, every tear you shed, questions. Every sleepless night you endured is part of your story. Don't feed those chapters. They are the honest that make your story unique, questions. They are the honest that give your life depth. They are the honest that inspire others when they feel lost. So, questions. The next time you are going through a difficult phase, remind yourself, this is not just pain, this is material for your story. Questions. On a day you will look back and say, yes, I struggled there, but that struggle became my strength, and that strength became my story. Questions. Remember, people may admire your success, but they connect with your struggle. Success makes them clap, questions, but struggle makes them fail. And when you share your struggle, you give them the courage to fix their own battles. Questions. Your struggle is not your weakness, it is your wisdom. It is not your shame, it is your shine. And most importantly, it is not just your burden, it is your story. And the world needs to hear it. Questions. Gratitude transforms struggles come into our life. Our natural instinct is to complain. We say things like of hume. Questions. Enough. Free is life so unfair, it's easy to focus only on what we have lost, on what we don't have, on what is going wrong. Questions. But here is the secret. Gratitude has the power to transform how we experience struggle. Questions. Gratitude always hangs the situation itself, but it hangs the way we see it. And when the way we see things hangs, questions, the entire experience transforms. Think of a glass filled halfway with water. Two people look at it on a size, but it's half empty. Questions. The other size, but it's half full. The water in the glass is the same, but the perspective is different. Questions. Gratitude is choosing to see the half full instead of the half empty. And when you practice it during struggles, questions. The struggle itself becomes lichter, more meaningful, even bearable. Let's take a live example. Imagine someone loses their job. Questions. The frustration is panic, fear, and anger. But this happened to me. How will I survive? But gratitude shifts the perspective to the questions. Says, I am grateful. I had this job for as long as I did, but also it gave me skills and experience. Questions. I am grateful I still have my health to search for a new one. Questions. I am grateful I have a family and friends who will support me through this transition. I suddenly, instead of drowning in hopelessness, questions. This person begins to see possibilities. Gratitude does erase the struggle, but it transforms the energy with which we face it. Even in so messing small as daily inconveniences, gratitude hanges de store. Imagine you are stuck in traffic questions, late for an appointment. You all shittere honking, cursing and fuming, letting frustration take over. Or you all pause and say questions. Para si have a zarto shitin. At least I am safe. At last I can listen to music or a podcast file I wait. Questions. I de traffic doest magically disappear, but the inner experience hanges. Gratitude transforms irritation into patience. Questions. Think of health struggles. When someone falls sick, the usual response is complaint, of him is suffering. Vries my body feeling me, but gratitude shifts it. It says, I might be sick, but I am grateful for the medicines available. Questions. I am grateful for the people taking care of me. I am grateful for the parts of my body that are still functioning well. Questions. It has shifted those through the illness instantly, but it gives hope, it strengthens the willpower, and it spreads recovery. Questions. Studies even show that people who practice gratitude during illness heal faster because their mind supports their body. Questions. Gratitude also depends relationship during struggles. Imagine a family going through financial difficulty. On a person's all side, questions. Dove don't have enough, life is miserable. E another all side, but least we have a oser. At least we have fought to it, questions, even if it's simple. At least we have roof over our head. It at gratitude strengthens unity, questions. And unity gives the sourage towards some of the financial challenge together. Without gratitude, questions. The same situation mig break the family apart with blame and complaints. Gratitude doest at money to the bank, questions. But at richness to the heart. A story beautifully illustrates 11 questions. A bee sat on the steps of a building with a hat in front of him, hoping for signs from passers-by. He had a cinta treat questions. I am blind plus a help. If a people dropped signs, then a man came, took the sign, flipped it around, and wrote some amazing new questions. Suddenly man more people and giving. What did the man write? He wrote, today is a beautiful day, but he cannot see it. Questions. That small hang expressed gratitude, I reminded people of what they had and instantly transformed their hearts. Questions. Gratitude is contagious. When you express in your struggle, it touches others and invites their support. Think also about the struggles of time. Life is fast, responsibilities are endless, and many of us feel overwhelmed. Questions. Gratitude in the struggle looks like this. Instead of planning, poiam sobusi I have no time for myself. It is saying questions. Bo I am grateful I have work to do, because it means I am useful. I am grateful I have people phonet me, because it means I am loved. Questions. I am grateful for this busy season, because it is teaching me to value rest when it comes. Questions. It is simply practice transforms exhaustion into meaning. Gratitude is not denial. It does say there is no struggle. Questions. It simply says, yes, there is struggle, but there is also something to be thankful for. Questions. It shifts our attention flats to abundance, from despair to hope, from bitterness to sweetness. Questions. It is like a ring lamp into a dark room. The darkness might still exist, but the light makes it livable. Questions. When you look past the struggles, you notice how the hardest moments also gave you some amazing valuable lesson. Questions. A new opportunity or other connection with someone. Gratitude allows you to see its value not only afterward. Questions. But also still in the middle of the storm. That is what transforms the experience. Friends, gratitude is a hoice. Questions. It's not always easy, especially in the middle of pain, but it is always possible. If you train yourself to find at least anything to be grateful for, Even in the darkest moments, questions. You will notice how your strength grows, how your heart softens, questions. And how struggle becomes a stepping stone instead of a stumbling block. So next time life gets hard, pause and ask questions. Wat kan I still be grateful for right now? Ik mig be your breas. It mig be your family. Questions. It mig be simply the chance to try again tomorrow. Whatever it is, hold on to it. Gratitude is not just a prastice, it's a lifeline. Questions. It transforms struggle into strength by transforming your heart. Questions. Struggles reveal true friends in games. It often feels like the whole world is vicious. Fan success shines on us. Questions. Many people gather around to share in the brightness. Friend teres celebration, tere are countless hands to clap, countless smiles to hear. But the moment darkness sets in friend life becomes heavy and struggles arrive. Questions. That's friend is amazing, very important the difference between companions and companions of commitment. Questions. Struggles reveal who our true friends really are. Think of it like it is. When you trof apart and lie out a fest. Questions. Erroneous of soup. The laughter is loud, the room is crowded, and you feel surrounded. But the same craft is not there when you are lying in a hospital bed. When you are sitting alone after a failure. Post questions. Or when you are crying silently in your room. Tose få come without invited during tose moments tose are your true friends. Questions. Struggles lavai the superficial liars, sans show you for stands beside you not for your success, but for you. Questions. Tak daily life example. Imagine a student who is always soaring for grades and excelling in school. At that tiaul. Questions. Everyone wants to shit with them, everyone wants to copy notates, everyone calls them a friend. Questions. But suppose an exam doest go well, or they fail a subject. Suddenly the crowd disappears. Questions. Only on ord for friends remain to encourage them to say, po it's okay, you'll bounce bats. Questions. At that moment reveals the difference between those who like their main marks and those who value their head. Questions. The same is true in professional life. When someone intel is doing well, earning a good salary or having recognition. Questions. Many people want to associate with them. But let there be a plus or a bushines failure and the croftins. Tosef ho still call, pions, still headskin, still treat them with respect tose are genine fiends. Questions. Struggles like at filter tatremoves deduced os of pretension, leaves bechin the levels of true companionship. Questions. Even in relationships, struggles play the role of a mirror. When everything is romantic and perfect, it's a asset to say we love you. Questions. Ibut love is tested when misunderstandings arise, when financial pressures mount, or when health deteriorates. Questions. A true partner is revealed not during candlelit dinners, but during hospital visits, Latinic voices, and shared burdens. Questions. The beauty of struggle is that it does use test relationships strengthens the real honest. Questions. To se foval kawaj vere never truly meant to stay and to se hostai proveter love in the most powerful way. Questions. Think also about the small struggles daily life. Suppose your tsar breaks down on a lonely road. Questions. You might have a long contacts list on your phone, but have many people village to a Lipitskup and drive miles to help you. Very fair. Questions. And that moment, as frustrating as it is, shows you clearly of Hocares beyond convenience. There is a famous saying. Questions. Prosperity makes friends, adversity test. And how true it is, struggles reveal the depths of someone's harassed. Questions. Fewer friends disappear when the wasser hangs, but true friends hold an umbrella overhead in the storm. In fact, questions. Some times struggles don't just reveal old friends, stay also create new ones. Questions. You make unexpected kindness from some one you barely nef. Questions. And that bond becomes one of the most precious friendships of your life. As Mary explains this beautifully. Questions. A man had two friends. One was always with him during his successful years, lavish parties, vacations, celebrations. Questions. The other was greater, not always visible in the craft. One day the man's bushiness so lapsed. Questions. His wealthy friend disappeared instantly, not returning calls. But the gviet one came with formfort. We sense our argument. Questions. In that struggle, the man realized who his true friend was. The struggle was painful, but it gave him the priceless gift of clarity. Questions. The truth is, struggle save us from wasting our energy on people who were never truly for us. Without struggles, we must keep investing in shallow relationships, thinking everyone is genuine. But when life shakes us, masks fall off. Questions. And feel it my hurt to see people walk is also liberating, but also we no longer need to pretend. Questions. We can focus on the honest for matter. The honest for have proven the loyalty through action, not used words. Gratitude. To questions parole here. When we look back at our toughest moments, we often remember not just the pain, questions, but also the faces of those who stood by us, questions. Those faces shine brighter in memory than hundreds of others who were only around during happy times, questions. Sometimes on a true friend in struggle is worth more than 100 companions in success, questions. Struggles also teach us to be true friends ourselves. When we know how it feels to be abandoned in hardship, questions, we learn the importance of standing others when they suffer. Struggle makes us more empathetic. Questions. It shapes us into the kind of people who don't disappear from our heart. And in this way, questions. Struggle does just reveal well friends, it helps become one. So the next time you face a difficulty, questions. Don't only look at what you have lost, look also at what still stands with you. Appreciate those who call to heads on you, questions. For she silently be your seed when words aren't enough, for remind you of your strengths when you forget it yourself, questions. Tese are the treasures life reveals only in the currency of struggle. Remember, success may attract a craft, questions, but struggle reveals a family. And when you find those true friends, hold close, value them deeply, and never let them go. Questions. But also in the end, it is not the number of people celebrate with you that matters, but the faith who cry with you, fig with you, and walk with you through the storms.